What is up, everybody? It's me, Dan, moderately anonymous MTG. Today we're here doing something a little bit different than we normally do. Y'all might not know this about me, but I love to brew $50 budget EDH decks. That's casual EDH, not CEDH. I am a huge fan of the budget $50 meta. It's super creative, it's super fun. There's a ton of really interesting and complex things that you can do for $50, and also a lot of really powerful things that you can do for $50. So without further ado, I just wanted to show off one of my latest $50 brews. This is Kenrith the Returned King, $50 infinite turns. So Kenrith, y'all probably know, is a 5-color powerhouse. It's 4 and a white for a legendary human noble, and Kenrith has 5 different abilities on him, one for each of the 5 colors, meaning we are a 5-color deck, and all of them are really powerful. We can pay a red to give all creatures haste and trample until end of turn. We can pay 1 and a green to give a +1/+1 counter to any creature. For 2 and a white, target player gains 5 life. For 3 and a blue, target player draws a card. And for 4 and a black, we return target creature from a graveyard to its owner's battlefield. And again, these affect all players, so we can use this politically. We can use it on anyone that we would like to. If a player needs to draw a card, if we need to get a big bad creature back on the battlefield to make sure that we don't lose to someone else, we can do all of that with Kenrith. But we are a combo deck, and we are trying to do all of these things, most importantly, for ourselves. So what are the combos that we're trying to enact here? Now, obviously, this deck revolves around Kenrith's different abilities, and we have got a lot of cards that play into all of those, and mostly we have cards that are playing into the +1/+1 counter strategy. So we've got things like Conclave Mentor in the deck that increase our +1/+1 counter output, cards like Gyre Sage or Fathom Mage that both benefit from having +1/+1 counters put onto them. And of course, our big payoff for the +1/+1 counters is our creature that's going to give us infinite turns, Sage of Hours. If you're unfamiliar with Sage of Hours, it is a mythic from a long time ago, from back when I started playing Magic around the Journey into Nyx era, and what it does is take infinite turns with Kenrith. So Sage of Hours is a 1/1 human wizard. It has a heroic ability that says you can put a +1/+1 counter on it every single time that you target it with a spell. Now, this does not proc for Kenrith's ability because it very specifically says that it has to be a spell that we're targeting. That's the heroic mechanic. But Sage of Hours does not care where these +1/+1 counters came from on it. It just cares that it has +1/+1 counters. So if we use our ability from Kenrith to put +1/+1 counters on Sage of Hours, we can remove 5 of them and take an extra turn. Now, paying a generic and green every time we want to put a +1/+1 counter in here is pretty expensive. 10 mana to take an extra turn, 5 of that being green, is a lot. So what are we doing to make that a little bit easier for ourselves? We've got things like Biomancer's Familiar. We also have Zirda, the Dawnwaker. These reduce the cost of Kenrith's ability by generic mana, meaning that we can start paying just 1 green to put a +1/+1 counter on things. And paying 5 green to take an extra turn is a lot more palatable than paying 10. But this is not the only thing that we can do by reducing Kenrith's costs. Another combo that we have in the deck is using Emil the Blessed and her Blink ability, using that with Derevi. For 3 generic mana, we can use Emil to bounce Derevi. Derevi comes back in, he taps or untaps any permanent. So again, if we have Zirda or our Biomancer's Familiar on board, we're reducing that cost to bounce something to just 1 mana. That means if we have any dork that makes more than 1 mana, we can instantly go infinite on mana. So what are our dorks that make more than 1 mana? We've got the Accomplished Alchemist, which makes mana for the amount of life that we've gained every turn. And again, you'll remember that one of Kenrith's abilities is to gain 5 life. So we gain 5 life, and then we can start tapping Accomplished Alchemist for 5 mana. We've also got Fabro Elder, which naturally, in and of itself, makes 2 mana, but the more colors of permanence that we have on board is going to tap for even more colors. And then we've also got things like Gyre Sage, we've got our Incubation Druid, we have got Kami of Whispered Hopes, Karametra's Acolyte. We have a ton of different outlets for making infinite mana. Now, the colors that we can produce is obviously going to be important because that translates into which of Kenrith's abilities that we can activate with our infinite mana. If we only have green per se off of the Karametra's Acolyte, we can make our creatures infinitely large. If we have an extra red mana laying around, we can also give them trample, but maybe not enough. So what we're really looking for is cards that make multiple colors of mana. The best ones are the ones that make any of the 5 colors, like the Kami or Incubation Druid. These are both really good cards to go infinite with. Once we have infinite mana, that means we can start drawing through our deck with Kenrith. And once we can draw through our deck, we can do a lot of different things. The easiest way is to just win outright by making our creatures infinitely large by dumping a bunch of green mana and putting +1/+1 counters on everything, and then paying red to make everything large and tramply. But we've got some other pretty flavorful outlets for all of this mana. One thing that we can do is get Willbreaker on board. If we get Willbreaker on board, we can steal everyone's creatures across the board and kill them with their own creatures. That's super fun. If we have Veto, Thorn of the Deskgrows, that means that we can start activating the life gain ability to drain our opponents out of their life. Or if we get Shalai and Halar into play, we can ping our opponents to death with the individual green activations for Kenrith. And the rest of our creature base is pretty much to make sure that we can push through our damage, to make sure that we can crew a bunch of value. We've got Mercfiend Leech that is going to allow us to start untapping our dorks on everyone else's turn in a little make your own Seaborn Muse action. So that way we can activate Kenrith's abilities on everyone's turns, gain a huge amount of value that they probably won't be able to overcome. And then the rest of our deck is outfitted with ramp, interaction, and some very cheap tutors. So if we look at our sorceries, one of the best we've got is Neoform. Neoform, fantastic spell, can't beat it. Diabolic Tutor is also pretty good. It costs 4 mana, but if we're looking for anything in our deck, it's also a pretty good rate, especially when it only costs 76 cents. We've got plenty of single targeted removal. We've got an Aetherize to get lots of things off the board at once. We've got a couple of different draw spells in the deck. For our artifact selection, we've just got a ton of different kinds of signets and talisman, and basically the idea behind this is that if we can only make, say, a bunch of green with our Karametra's Acolyte, the signets and talisman at least give us the outlet to be able to transfer that green into other colors of mana. And in the enchantment section, we have Freed from the Real is our last combo in the deck. Freed from the Real, if you're unfamiliar with it, goes infinite with any dork that can make blue and another color, or multiple instances of blue. So again, if we can make 3 blue off of our Incubation Druid, this is a good way to go infinite. If we can make multiple mana off of our Kami of Whispered Hope, this is able to go infinite with that. And while it's only blue at first, what we can do is just make an arbitrarily large amount of blue mana, and then use that to start untapping the dork, and then start making other colors of mana. So as long as we can make blue and then other colors, we can always diversify our mana with that. Our mana base is pretty standard, nothing too fancy. Again, we're a $50 budget deck, so we gotta be pretty tight on it, but there are a lot of good ones. We've got all of the BFZ lands that come in untapped if you control 2 or more basics. We've got plenty of basics just because they come in untapped. Untapped basics are just basically better than any guild gate. And then another cheap cycle of duels that I really love are the Reveal lands that are originally from Innistrad, and I think that they were picked up in a later Innistrad set, actually. So ones like Fortified Village, Frostboil Snarl is from the new set. These are all great ways to utilize both our basics and the BFZ duels that all have basic land types. And that, in a very quick nutshell, is the deck. I know a lot of people who watch this channel are probably not super interested in these $50 budget brews, but it is something that I really love, and I hope to spread this love around. I really enjoy seeing other people's $50 budget brews. Again, it's a really creative space. There's a lot of power that you can stuff into these decks. There's lots of infinite combos that you can go for. Normally I avoid them, but for Kenrith, I really wanted to just go all in because I knew that there was a lot of fun stuff to do with him and activating his abilities. But yeah, thanks so much for checking out this quick deck tech. I hope you enjoyed $50 Infinite Turns Kenrith. And if you've got any of your own $50 brews, please link them in the replies down below. I love to check out $50 budget decks. I hope that y'all enjoyed this one, and we will see you next time. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, one of the best ways to support us is by leaving a comment and hitting that like and subscribe button. It's incredibly helpful and always appreciated. If you want to support the channel more directly, join our Patreon to catch episodes early, join our private Discord, and get some other awesome benefits. One final thank you to all of our patrons who make great content like this possible. And thank you for watching. Be good to yourself, everyone.